You are listening to Proof Text, a Glossa House podcast exploring Scripture and all things related to it. New episodes are released daily. For more information, check out glossahouse.com and subscribe to our channels on Spotify and YouTube. Welcome and enjoy.
Shalom, and welcome to another episode of SLA Insights. My name is Dr. Jennifer Noonan, and we're going to continue this discussion we've been having over the last few episodes about reading fluency, and now some practical steps to help improve reading fluency for you or for your students. The last episode, I talked about an extensive reading program, reading lots of texts at or below a learner's current level. This episode, I'm going to talk about some strategies for improving reading rate, so speeding up a learner's reading. And the idea is to push them to read at an increasingly faster rate. Now, it seems counterintuitive, at least to start with, but the idea is the goal in doing this is to get the students to read through an entire phrase or sentence before their phonological loop times out. And I've talked about this in some previous episodes, the importance of the phonological loop of working memory and how it is limited in capacity and time. And so if we can push learners to read more quickly, they can get more in before that phonological loop times out. That's one goal. Another is to get the students to move from reading bit by bit, word by word, and to start reading those phrases at a time, to start taking in chunks, so to teach them to not get bogged down in reading word by word, detail by detail, to help them push them to get larger chunks of reading at a time. So the benefits then are to teach learners to not fixate unnecessarily on words or word parts, and thereby draining their working memory, to develop faster and more efficient word recognition skills, which is one of the lower level skills that we've talked about that build up to the higher level skills, which is where we want them to be with the comprehension and so on. Doing reading rate practice is also going to reinforce known vocabulary, which is also going to improve fluency, and ultimately help the learners make the best use of what they already know. So it's kind of helping them put it all together. So to do this, to develop reading rate practice to help the students move faster, get faster in their reading, there are two different approaches. And I've covered this earlier in the podcast in an earlier episode, but it's worth reviewing here, how to go about getting students to read faster. So two different approaches. The first approach, we're going to start with a set time limit. Now, I would suggest anywhere from 30 seconds to about 3 minutes, but you can adjust it based on your students, their level of reading, the time you have in class. All of these are going to come into play, but give a set time limit. Let's say it's 1 minute, and you're going to give your students a passage that is comprehensible. So they know 95 to 98% of the running words in the text. And then you want to make sure that the text is long enough so that it actually will take them longer than 1 minute or whatever your time frame is to read the whole thing silently to themselves. So a text that's relatively long enough that they're going to take longer than your time limit to read it. Then you're going to encourage your students to put it in front of them, encourage them to read it for comprehension, and then you set the timer. And when the timer goes off, have the students mark the spot in the text where they stopped, where the timer went off. And then what you do, and this is the important piece, is you repeat the process at least one more time, maybe 2 or 3 times. It can be immediately, but you can wait another day or a week or so before you come back and have them read the same text again, same time limit, but this time encourage the students to beat their record. Can you do this a little faster than you did the last time? And see if they can read past that place they marked in the text. And so again, pushing them, challenging them to read a little faster this time and helping them to increase their reading rate as they do so. So that's one approach to improving the reading rate for reading rate practice. There's a second approach where you start with a set text rather than a set time. Give them a passage that is comprehensible. Again, they're going to need to know 95 to 98% of the words in it. Make sure that the text is long enough, but not too long. Something that might take them a minute or two, maybe 3 to read silently, again, depending on the level of your students, the time you have in class, and encourage the students to read the entire text, encourage them to read for comprehension. Once they start reading, I want you to set a stopwatch. And if it's possible, make it visible so they can look up and see when they're done how much time has elapsed, how long it took them to read that entire text. So they read through the passage starting at time 0 and go until they're done. And when they're done, they mark the time. How long did it take them to read that entire passage, however long it was? And the student will take note of that, mark it down, and then again, repeat the process. And this is what's important, to challenge them to do it faster the next time. Can you bring that time down a little bit? And again, you can do it immediately, same day, right away, or you can delay it a day, a week, maybe even a month, depending on how you want to structure the class. And again, you want to see if they can beat their record. There's some motivation just in the challenge itself. Can I do this faster? But if you want to increase the motivation, you can create a graph for each student's progress so they can see visually the improvement that they've made from one repetition to the next. Have I beaten my time? Have I read more words in the set time given, depending on which approach you're going to go with? So that's one way, another way of motivating them to keep up this process, to practice, to get better at it. Another possible motivation is to offer a grade for completing the assignment, just a check, 10 points, you did it, but maybe give them bonus points for reaching a goal. So for example, they've improved by 10 seconds. And so if you improve by 10 seconds or more, you get an extra couple of points bonus. So those are some other ways of motivating your students to do this and to keep at it and to keep processing, again, because the benefits are reading fluency. It's not just a game. It's not just to make it fun. It's to help them improve their reading rate so that they can not time out their phonological loops so quickly, so that they can reinforce vocabulary, so that they can learn to not dissect the text quite so much, to trust their gut, to move forward, and to read in larger chunks rather than word by word. So again, this was reading rate practice, a way of pushing your learners to increase the rate at which they read their texts. In future episodes, I'm going to cover some things like rereading and recycling texts and some vocabulary, the importance of vocabulary learning for reading fluency. So I hope you can join me for these upcoming episodes. In the meantime, have a great week.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? Glossa House can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, Glossa House offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glossahouse.com today. Glossa House, language resources for the global community.